and you're live.
Excellent. Thanks everybody for attending. We have a forum of our Bike Walk Commission members. Let's start with public input. Norwalk, do you see anybody available for public input?
As of presently, no public attendees.
All right, we'll move on. If people join later, then we'll give them another chance, provided we have time. So let's start with the approval of the minutes. I included them as a link in the agenda because they're available on the city's website. Would anyone like to move to accept the minutes from last month?
I'll move to accept them.
Thanks, Barb. A second? Thanks, Christine. All in favor?
Here.
Great. Looks like it passes unanimously. Okay, so the first thing on the agenda is I wanted to talk about the subcommittees. So just for people who maybe haven't been around to speed, oh, it looks like we have Judd as well. Judd, thanks for joining. Can you hear us okay, Judd?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent, welcome. So a few different people have reached out to me talking about how we might operate the commission better going forward, and several ideas have coalesced around this idea. It's not yet really a formal proposal, but I wanted to bring it up for discussion, and that is to move away from the subject area based subcommittees that we have, in particular the bike subcommittee and the walk subcommittee, toward a set of shorter term, more focused, more goal oriented working groups. Audrey was one of the ones who asked for this first, I think, or at least asked for something along these lines. As most of you may know, Audrey was the co-chair of the pedestrian subcommittee. Audrey, do you want to say anything to this topic?
Yeah, I was co-chair and then chair after Barbara Meyer Mitchell left as co-chair, and as not being a commissioner. So I was just doing that as as chair as Jane Q. Public essentially, and I just found for me sort of a big undertaking to try and keep the committee relevant, and it seemed like a lot of the special projects connected with pedestrian safety or pedestrian projects the city was handling in some way. And I'm just wondering whether it makes sense, since the Bike Walk Commission is focused on two things, walking and biking. I just question, do we need to have separate committees devoted to walking and biking, or whether it might be more productive at this point to have a special projects working groups in some way, and then they have a duration, or there's special projects that just is continual. But I just wanted to put that out there. For me, it was sort of a big undertaking to have to keep after a lot of details. And if someone else, if we retain a pedestrian committee, maybe someone else wants to take over now. I know Barbara Meyer Mitchell ran into some snafus, and that's why she left. And so I think it's worth discussing whether it's relevant or what we see, going forward for the pedestrian committee.
Thanks, Audrey. Yeah, I'll open it up at this point to the floor, especially commissioners, but really anybody, if you have feedback or ideas about this.
Tanner, do you have thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's the right direction. I definitely want to be more goal-oriented on the commission, and I think that by establishing groups around the goals versus around the domains, as it were, that we can do that better.
Okay. but how do we pick these projects? And how many do we pick?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think we would pick them somewhat organically as projects come up. For example, this one's still in a little bit of a holding pattern, and I offered to give Christine some time, some dedicated agenda time to discuss it this month, but she said that there's not much yet to work on. But soon, I think we're going to have some stuff to work on with the League of American Bicyclists in applying to become a bicycle-friendly city, or applying for that designation. And that seems like the kind of work that could split off into a small working group, perhaps consisting of Christine and one or two other people. And they would work on that in parallel and report in on it at meetings. I'm imagining somewhere along the lines of maybe for 3 or 4 months. And then that application would be submitted and that working group would be disbanded so that those commissioners have bandwidth to work on other tasks.
Yeah, and Tanner, you know, I mean, one thing that comes to mind is sort of teaming up or collaborating with Norwalk River Valley Trail. You know, that's a different group, but I think aligning ourselves with other groups who are doing some similar things helps strengthen this, you know, safer passage. And that
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that new leg is about to open and later this month or early September. I don't know if Jim Carter is attending the meeting, but, you know, being in support of projects, I know the Harbor Loop, for instance, that's sort of a separate project, but aligning ourselves with some of the, I don't know that we have to invent every project.
Oh, of course. So just as a quick aside, that is on the agenda for later. I have been trying to just personally get to know the NRVT as an organization, understand their priorities and what their near-term timeline looks like, so that we can do exactly what you just suggested. I think to the extent that there are projects for us to work on either for them or with them, then we can form a working group for that. We may, for example, end up having a chance to form one to support this grand opening that they're planning, that Jim is going to talk about once he joins later in the evening. But yeah, I don't think that topic seems a little bit distinct from the topic of whether or not we should restructure our subcommittees. Like, I think either way, we're definitely, I think we would all agree that we want to support organizations like the NRVT and make sure that we're working in tandem with them. Go ahead, Jim.
Yep. I mean, it seems to me there should be a continual subcommittee for bicycle routes and things like that. I know, you know, right now, Greg and Mike and Garrett and Jim have been working on this grant and the crosstown route, you know, 136 and all that, and that's consumed all of their time, or a lot of their time. But I think once they get through that, you know, the people that are most qualified to direct where bike routes should go are the people that live here, you know, such as Colin, who commutes to work, you know, almost every day of the week, right? You know, and I do off and on, and so I could see a value in that, having just like a fixed subcommittee for that. And I personally, I've never been on the pedestrian subcommittee, but I could see where there's an ongoing subcommittee for that is looking constantly at sidewalks and crosswalks. I think at some meeting in the past, Garrett said they really need help identifying where sidewalks need to be placed or repaired, or even where they are. They didn't really have a great inventory. Greg, are you there, or Mike?
Yes, Judd, I'm here. So yeah, so Tanner and I have spoken. I was gonna update during my update, but I'll give it to you now. We are still in the process of kind of creating a more in-depth sidewalk collection inventory and ADA ramp and crosswalk. We do have some limited, you know, from a previous study that was done a few years ago where they were able to capture where, you know, sidewalks are, but we want to get a lot more in depth. We've done I've done a lot of research on what other cities have done in their collection process, and because we really want to be able to query a lot of the data that we collect, and we only really have one shot to collect everything, so we definitely don't want to do it halfway. We want to do it all the way. So right now we are just in the process of finding the right collection process and what technology would be the right path to take, whether it's going out there ourselves and collecting it, or working alongside with a consultant and having the Bike Walk Commission members help out. But we want to be able to get as much in-depth collections as possible to find what kind of material the walkway is, how wide it is, the kind of type of condition that it's in. Is there an amenity zone that's available? So we definitely want to get very detailed collection data, and if we have to take our time and do it right from the get-go, we're willing to do that. So we want to be able to do it right from the start. So we're just in the process of kind of finding the right way to go about this, and reaching out to some outside stakeholders and some companies and other cities as well, and seeing how their process went. Because some of these cities that have done it, they were able to do it with a couple dozen interns, and and they had a good amount of money to do it. So we're gonna see what the best process would be for us.
Thanks, Greg. Let's have more from Greg in the next agenda item. Judd, I think your point was more about the nature of the work of the previously like subcommittee
of the citizens, and I sort of an ongoing feedback to staff about what's going on out there, what we're experiencing on a daily basis. So
you see a work stream, for lack of a better term, that is distinct from just like a shorter term goal that can be accomplished, checked off, and then moved on. You see this as kind of a recurring work stream, or like a standing priority.
Yeah, standing, and there could be projects. There. I mean, to me, the LOTSIP, is that how you pronounce it? The LOTSIP grant?
Correct.
For the crosswalk on Wall Street. I mean, that started here, with the commission advocating for a crosswalk at that point, and it's, I don't know, it's been removed from TMP, I think, at this point. I mean, I think it's a public works project, but that's the kind of stuff that came out of if there's a standing pedestrian committee. Those are the kind of things, to me, that a pedestrian committee is looking at.
Should be.
Gotcha. I don't think that we need to make a decision on this tonight. Mostly I wanted to, like I said, put it in front of the whole commission for feedback. So thanks, Chad, for that feedback. Anybody else want to give thoughts on this before we move on to the next agenda? I'm happy to take comments from everybody.
I'll jump in, Tanner. I think I had I think expressed some similar interest in that a while ago, or a similar idea of just structuring things a little bit differently. I think I've changed a little bit and kind of agree with Judd that I think there's some stuff that needs to be long-term and maybe continued effort on our part. So it's good to have a little bit of a cohesive ongoing dialogue and long-term plan. But I think I do fall very much in line with your suggestion that, shorter term goals and special projects is probably a much more effective use of everyone's time. But, we still need some sort of holistic, overhead view, I guess. We don't need to lose sight of that. So, it might not mean, maybe it doesn't need to meet as frequently. Maybe it's quarterly or something, that people are getting together and evaluating what's been done on the special projects and the progress that's been made. But I generally, I feel that shorter term goals would probably be better, getting things off the ground and getting people to focus on, little improvements that will make a big difference.
Thanks, Don.
So,
Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Yep, I guess on that point, you know, like at the end of the meeting, you have a thing here for other items from the commissioners as needed. I've got 3 things I want to bring up. If we're meeting like we used to with the bike route subcommittee, I probably could have addressed this stuff with Greg or whoever's, you know, the person from the city staff, but instead I want to bring it up here.
Okay.
So
So you see a bike subcommittee meeting as an avenue to communicate directly with city staff.
yeah, I think there's value in it, you know, in having a regular meeting outside of this meeting, particularly for the bike routes and maybe for the pedestrian committee. But I've never been really involved in the pedestrian committee in the
Sure.
past, so.
So actually, that brings up a very salient and related issue, and that somebody mentioned it to me, I think in an email this month. I don't remember who I can attribute it to, but it's the question of communication with city staff, and in particular, not wanting to overwhelm city staff. In this situation, it would be Greg. So Greg, I'd love to hear your take on this, but I think somebody mentioned to me that at one point, somebody from the city, maybe it was the mayor, requested that all of the communication from the commission go through the chair. I'm not bringing this up because I necessarily want to do that, because it's a lot of communication, but I want to make sure that I at least understand everybody's expectations. Does anybody here remember telling me that? Or
I remember hearing something like that at one point, yes.
okay. Greg, how do you feel about that? What level of direct interaction would you want to have with commission members versus just everything coming through one person?
Yeah, I mean, definitely want to, you know, streamline everything and, you know, obviously we only get an hour and a half to meet every month and, you know, everyone has a, you know, a lot of items to discuss and we don't want to take up too much time. So, I mean, I don't know if it's meeting once a month, you know, on a separate occasion, you know, maybe it's, you know, every other month or quarterly to meet and discuss something like that. Because sometimes getting things done within a month, you know, from one month to another is a lot. But also, like you said,
meeting with the subcommission or?
Yeah, with the subcommission. And then
Okay.
to your point, Tanner, about, you know, having one person, you know, definitely it would be easier to, you know, at least even if it's just communication from one person that, you know, if Tanner, if that's you or depending on the group, that definitely would, you know, make things easier in communication as well. So that you're all in communication with each other, but that's, again, that's up to the commission and how you want to handle things, Tanner. So, you know, I don't want to tell you, you know, how to operate and, you know, we're here for support. So,
Thanks, Greg.
and work with.
At the same token, I don't want to overwhelm you.
Yeah, I mean,
with whatever communication we have.
Yeah, I mean, hearing from 6 different people is sometimes a little overwhelming, but, you know, if everyone's in unison, that would be easier for city staff as well. Because, you know, there's a lot of times when I need to reach out to other departments and other members of TMP as well and get a, you know, consensus of, you know, and get updates. So that would be also easier on my end when I communicate with them, and it gets confusing if every day I have something else that's that I need answers for. So that I need.
Well, that's another good piece of context. So thanks for bringing that up. Any other comments, especially from commissioners, about standing subcommittees versus working groups or anything related to that? Go ahead, Bob.
I don't think they're exclusionary. I like the idea of the standing committees because I think that has a continuity to it. It's kind of fallen apart, but I think I'd love to see that get back to that multiple input when we had 12, 15, 20 people giving their thoughts to the, and sometimes actions to the committee. But I really like the focused little things as well. So I don't think one replaces the other. That's me.
Okay, thanks. Then a follow-up question for you and potentially for the whole commission. If we were to keep a pedestrian subcommittee around, anybody have any suggestions who could run that? Given that Audrey has stepped down.
I already asked Julia and she did not say yes.
But Audrey, you don't want to do it.
I feel sort of burned out on it. So I took it on for a little over a year. And I just wouldn't mind if somebody else wants to I feel like I've taken it as far as I can. And if somebody else would like to step in and at this point, that would be true. I don't mind staying on the committee, but chairing it was just getting to be too much with all of my environmental duties and all the other things I'm doing.
I see.
I feel like I should take this opportunity to say that Audrey and Barbara Meyer Mitchell did a fantastic job and a ton of work. The caliber and the quality of the work that they did was seriously impressive to me, just in all the different things that they kept on their plates and all the balls that kept rolling. Honestly, I feel like at times the pedestrian subcommittee was doing the level of work that I would expect from the whole Bike Walk Commission.
Well, honestly, I guess it could keep going. The thing is I'm an activist. So I tend to push the envelope, and I think I get pushback on it. And I don't know that I'm going rogue, but I feel like I'm not sure that I'm fully fitting in, and I'm not a commissioner either. So maybe I need to be a commissioner first and then kind of step it back. But my nature is to push a little bit. And I don't know whether I'm a liability or not. That's all.
What's keeping you from becoming a commissioner?
Well, my resume, Nancy put the resume forward to the mayor in May, late May.
Uh-huh.
And I think Sam also is coming up for reappointment.
I believe I was reappointed.
So, yeah,
Oh, you were reappointed?
so Sam was reappointed last
Right.
month by the Common Council.
Something goes forward to the Common Council and it's never on their agenda month after month. So it's just, that's sort of languishing. So I'm thinking maybe there's a reason. I don't know. No, I don't mean on their end, but in the universal sense.
Can people hear me?
Yes,
Sorry, I got some feedback that my mic was weird. Am I sounding better now?
not really.
Tanner, if you sit back in your chair, you sound better.
Well, I'm trying to switch to this microphone.
Oh,
right
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
much better.
good.
now. Okay.
Sit back.
I think-
Yeah.
Is this any different than?
Yeah, that's better.
Then this-
No. Back is better.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, then you can see more of my bike.
Okay.
Excellent. Yeah. So I attended the Common Council meeting just over 2 weeks ago, where Sam was up for reappointment, and Sam was confirmed. David Hubelman even had some nice words to say about Sam and his engagement in the community.
Which makes no sense, right? Because I don't think we've ever interacted, but.
Well, we'll take what we
time.
can get.
Yeah.
I did follow up in the public input section of the meeting about filling Nancy's vacancy, and in particular mentioned Audrey by name. The mayor said, or maybe somebody in the mayor's office said that they had only just barely received Nancy's resignation, like within a day or two of that meeting, which confused me. I would have thought that Nancy would have been much more on top of that. And I think I was even CC'd on the emails. But in any event, they said that they were still considering the appointment and would make a decision shortly. But then this last week, I checked the agenda and nobody was up for appointment. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. At this point, it might be worth me following up, unless there's somebody from the city in this meeting that knows anything.
They probably think I'm a hothead.
No, Audrey, I don't think that's it. It's just hasn't happened. It might be worth Tanner giving a call to Donna in the mayor's office.
Mhm.
She probably swore all of us in. Everybody
Yes.
knew it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've met her.
Yeah, Tanner, she's the one that handles all the appointments. So Sam was sworn in by her. So yeah, you can reach out to her and see if there's something that's needed for Audrey.
All right. Sounds good.
Just for the record, I don't mind if I'm a hothead and I'm rejected for that reason.
Well, how about you be a hothead and you become a commissioner? That would be better.
Either way.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the interest of time, I think I want to move on, unless there's somebody who hasn't had a chance to comment yet. and I think most of the commissioners have, but if there's any other commissioner that wants to, or somebody else, speak now.
On the
Sorry.
restructuring.
Yes, on the idea of subcommittees and short-term goals and related topics.
Well, Greg, I'd really like to get back to a monthly meeting with you and, like we used to do. I know you've been working very hard on this current project and the grant, but I thought it was helpful when we met outside this meeting on a monthly basis.
Okay. We can talk offline about it too, Judd, and we can figure out once we get some of these projects off our plate and, they kind of headed more into the installation process and we kind of plan forward for what's next, and maybe we can start picking it up again. But I'll speak with Jim and Garrett and we'll talk offline about it.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. With that, I'm going to move on to the next agenda item, which is Greg's report. And Greg already kind of gave an overview of that. Greg, do you mind if I dive in right away and ask you about the sidewalk inventory?
Yes, go right ahead.
I remember the last point that I remember being at was that I handed you a sample export from Google My Maps, and you were going to try and import that into GIS. And I think you said that it went okay.
Correct.
Is that still the
Yes.
point you're at?
Yeah, so I was able to do it, and the only thing that's limited in that regard is the amount of attributes that you're able to attach to it separately. Because we want to be able to query, so we want to be able to know, sidewalks that are pavement that are less than 5 feet, pavement that, or sidewalks, concrete sidewalks that are in poor condition. And we want to be able to, to easily access that once it's completed. We haven't totally abandoned that idea. We're just looking at other methods of collection and just seeing what would be the best to collect as much data as possible when we're out there. Because I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you go out there and you start walking, there's a lot of labor intense involvement in walking. Something like that. And Esri has some apps as well with an iPad that is able to collect. But again, the labor intensive process that's involved in it that other cities had, that, as I alluded to before, where you had dozens of interns going out there and for a whole summer collecting all this data, and then also creating the database once it's all completed. So it's not just going out there and just collecting the sidewalk, it's also setting the city up for, for future use of the geodatabase, where we're, able to kind of highlight those missing segments and get as much data as possible from the collection process. For instance, slope, of a sidewalk, height of the curb. That's another big thing, in Norwalk, and obviously missing sidewalk segments on top of it. So we haven't ruled anything out yet, but we're doing our due diligence to make sure it's done right from the get-go. We don't want to go backwards.
Okay. At this point, do you have a good idea of how the bike commission can be involved? Like, for example, should we put together a working group of a couple of people? We kind of already started one. I mean, we had together.
I met with you and Audrey, and we had discussed it, and you had sent me a sample from Google My Maps and how that works. And we just want to make it, because it would be a lot of work. It's not going to be easy to go out there and start walking around all these neighborhoods and collecting every single street and where there's a sidewalk and all this information on top of it. So we definitely want to keep the Bike Walk Commission included, and we want you guys to help us out with it, because you guys, you're out there, you see things, and you see the deficiencies in the sidewalk system. So we definitely want to keep you involved. We're just exploring what kind of opportunities there are to get this sidewalk collection completed, and we just want to do it right.
Okay. Any other updates on that topic? Or any requests for the commission on that topic?
Not really, not at this moment. Like I
Okay.
said, we'll keep you posted as we go, and you know, we can even talk offline if anything does come up, and then we can keep the commission updated, and if anything happens in between, you know, months. So, but we definitely want the Bike Walk Commission included in this process, in one way or another.
Do you want to move on to the connectivity grant then?
Yes. So, so the community connectivity grant, which we went over last meeting, which is the 17 miles worth of bike lane facilities, or bike facilities around the city, excuse me, was submitted to the state for DOT review. We're waiting for a review to come back, and we're still optimistic we will be able to put it out for bid by installation by the end of the year. So I just wanted to highlight a few things from last, you know, from about the design of the project. So we are incorporating, when we've looked at this, we wanted to incorporate as many bike lanes as possible, and to fill those gaps where we couldn't put bike lanes. Obviously, we did sharrows where we couldn't. So we were able to incorporate, of the 17 miles of roadway miles, lane miles that we put into this project, we have about 1.2 miles worth of buffered bike lanes. So there is a 3-foot buffer between the travel lane and the cyclist. So we have about 1.2 miles of that we incorporated into our design.
Can you say where that is, Greg?
Yeah, so the first, we have one on Richards Ave in both directions, south of Route 1, by where the Costco exit is. There's both in that direction right there, buffered bike lanes. We also have another one we're able to incorporate on Route 136 on McKinley Street going east from Broughton Ave all the way to Highland Ave. And then we were also able to incorporate a short one on Wilson Ave from Highland Ave till about the curve before Wilson Ave kind of goes up. It's a short stretch, but we were able to get a 3-foot buffer for about 300-400 feet there. And then we were also able to incorporate about 0.8 miles worth of a buffered bike lane in both directions on Winfield Street to the Westport border from, I believe it's, I forgot the name off the street off the top of my head, but it's about 0.4 miles from the Westport line.
Right on Triangle Street there, I think, Greg.
Yeah, so it's right about, thank you, Colin. Yeah, it's right about around Triangle Street is where we started the bike lane in both directions.
Down to Duck Pond, probably?
Yes, correct.
Yep.
Yep, all the way to Duck Pond Road. Yep. So we were able to fit the 3-foot buffers there on Winfield, because if you go drive there is a extensive amount of shoulder space. And we were able to keep the shoulder line that's there already to maintain the 11-foot travel lane there. So that's less cost on our end to have to, you know, remove the shoulder line and restripe the bike lane again. So we were able to incorporate that as well. And so all that together, about 1.2 miles worth of buffer bike lanes. And then we're able to put in 6.2 miles worth of conventional bike lanes throughout the whole stretch. And then the remaining 9.6 miles is sharrows and shared lanes.
It is, the buffer is painted, I assume, right?
Correct. Yes. Yep. It's striped. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Can I just want to jump in really quick and speak to some of the other advocates here. I made an appointment with Greg and actually saw the plans because I was interested in how they were treating the intersections and how the interactions were worth. And they've done a substantial amount of work. And if Greg's been doing the drafting, he's done a lot of work on this. And you know, it's appreciated, and the plans look good. One of the things that Jim, I forget if it was Jim Travers that was with us, Greg, or
It was Garrett. Garrett was with us.
I know Garrett was there. I don't know if Jim was there partially, but somebody made the comment that when I was talking about the buffered lanes, that the city does not have the capacity to clear a delineated buffered lane. So that kind of you know, for me, that was one of those things that like we're working incrementally towards a better product. And it's like, we can jump up and down all we want for buffered bike lanes, but if the city doesn't have the actual capability to maintain those lanes yet, we're probably better off not installing them, you know, and just.
By clear, you mean like clear of snow?
Right, correct. So it's like, so they don't have equipment small enough yet that will, you know, facilitate them to actually keep these clean or clear them of snow or provide the necessary maintenance to make them useful. So it's like, if we're not there yet, then, you know, I'm not saying we should stop lobbying for them, but this is a good first step in getting some solid painted buffered lanes in places in the city where we didn't have them before. And, you know, hopefully as that expands, you know, Greg can put in the capital budget for a mini snowplow that'll do this.
Good.
So,
yeah, that's a helpful detail to understand. I didn't know that before.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that before. You know, it's like one of the things that until you meet with people and somebody makes an offhanded comment like, we can't clean that yet. You didn't really think about. But.
Yeah, because if you have a concrete structure in between a 5-foot bike lane, then you have to have something that's small enough, like Con alluded to be able to get in there and clear snow or clear any debris that's in the way. So, you know, but that's something that we work toward. That's why we, you know, this is a starting point. There's nothing there now. We're able to incorporate many bike lanes that we can right now with some buffered bike lane mileage in there as well. And then we start building upon that and growing the bike infrastructure beyond that. So, you know, it's a good starting point as we move this forward. So again, obviously the design plan, you know, there's 15 total roadways as part of this grant, and there's, you know, many of those are listed on the bike plan, Judd, that you had given us. So a lot of those roads are touched upon on this. So again, a good starting point. So, you know, we're optimistic, and once we hear back from DOT and from the district, you know, we'll continue to move forward with it. So, but it's in DOT's review right now, and we're awaiting that review as quick as possible, because I know this is a high priority for them. As they have said, it's that they want to see this, because this is, you know, especially on a state route, this is big for them as well. So we're hopeful that it gets done sooner rather than later.
So ConnDOT is positive about this when you.
Yeah, so during the design process, we had some meetings with them, because we were, you know, going to do some things that they don't have. Like, for instance, you know, Colin had seen it before. We were going to put bike boxes on 4 Point Street, and they had said currently right now there are no bike boxes on any state route right now. There's a couple towns that were talking about it, but they hadn't seen anything on paper yet. So they were pretty excited about, you know, seeing that on 4 Point Street and some of the designs that we you know, wanted to incorporate, you know, on that small stretch of roadway especially.
So we're going to have a bike box?
Well, technically, we already have a bike box now. That was my next topic, but I'll get to that. I'll keep you excited, Judd.
Okay.
So, but the DOT was rather pleased, because you know, because they want to see it on their roads, and you know, and they liked the prospect of it, and so that's a high priority from them, from the group at DOT that handles the connectivity grant, and some of the engineers that we spoke with. So yeah, we're quite excited about it. Any other questions, Tanner? I have a couple other things that I want to discuss.
Okay, well then I'll just have one last question about the connectivity grant. At what point do you think we might be able to share this with the public, like on our social media?
So right now, like I said, it's in review process. You know, obviously a couple minor things could change. So, I mean, as of right now, you know, obviously Colin was able to see it. So, I mean, anybody, if you want to, you know, come in and see it, that's fine. We're not blocking anybody, but as far as sharing it with the public, not quite yet. We can put it out there and say, hey, look, everybody, because it's not approved yet by DOT.
Yeah.
So something could change, and somebody may say, wait a minute, I didn't see that. So until
any idea, like even just a rough guess as to when DOT will get back to us?
DOT, when we submitted it, we heard it could be anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks.
Gotcha. Okay.
Some
Audrey,
said it could be sooner, but I doubt it with DOT, so
Right.
we'll keep you posted as we, wait and hear from them.
yeah, Audrey had a comment.
Yes.
Yeah, Greg, does any of the connectivity connect to the NRVT?
No, it does not. It goes by the NRVT.
No, it does, right?
Yeah,
Your
it sure
bike box links up at Washington Street.
Well, but the NRV,
The NRVT heads south to Calf Pasture, so that
Yeah.
your improvements east-west across the.
yeah, I mean, I guess you can use it to get to the NRV. Yeah, I guess you can use it. To
Not
get to-
not the off-road portion, but the on-road portion. You are connecting to it.
Yeah, I guess you are. Yeah, because you do come on Seaview and then you
Mhm.
can use the portion of 136. Yeah, you're right, Colin. Yeah. So you do have it for a small portion of the on-road segment. Yes.
Okay.
All right, Greg, do you want to move on to the other? updates?
Yeah, there's just a couple other things. So Judd, as I alluded to, I don't know if anyone's been driving around East Avenue lately, but a few months back, the city submitted a request for approval to use intersection bicycle boxes. We received, about a month ago, we received the notification from FHWA that it was approved. So now we can, because originally we used this for the connectivity grant because we have to get approval from FHWA first before we institute any of the bike boxes. But we were able to, this week, or last week, they started putting in a bike box on Fitch Street at the intersection with East Avenue. So if you go by there now, there is a bike box.
Great.
So, and of course, anywhere you put a bike box from FHWA requires that you have at least 50 feet of advanced bike lane going up to the bike box. So we are limited to where we could put them, but we're furthering, exploring opportunities to install these bike boxes, now that the city has approval from FHWA. So we'll, be looking at those to use more of them in the future as well.
Greg, you mentioned that no other city in Connecticut has a bike box. Does that make this the first?
Oh,
bike
no,
box in Connecticut?
on state roads, they don't have.
Oh, on state roads, that's right.
State
Okay.
roads, yeah.
Never mind.
So the state alluded to, they haven't put any on, they've talked, other towns have discussed putting them in. But as far as first, on state route, this will be, the first right now.
So, but building on that, I would say that one of my questions when you mentioned that, and on this one on Fitch Street, we should definitely get this on social, Tanner. And I would say that as long as ConnDOT approves the plan, and when we hopefully implement the bike boxes on the state road, it would be nice to coordinate with ConnDOT on getting some social press. And maybe we could even get a larger newspaper to cover this, or even reach out to Streets Blog or something and see if they'll cover people in Connecticut here.
But is there a superlative about it? And do we know that it's the first? I mean, we know that's the first in Norwalk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first in Norwalk, but I mean, Greg's pointing out that if the one, as long as the state approves the plan that we've got, we're going to have the first one on the state road. So it's like, that's a pretty big milestone, I would say, for us to have that.
Yeah, once the state approves it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good. In the meantime, I think that at the very least on our social, and maybe in like Nancy and Norwalk, we could cover this very first one. It's on Fitch Street, you said, right?
Yeah, correct, right at the intersection with East Avenue.
Yeah. Is anybody on the commission have confidence in their photography skills? Audrey, I know that you have graphic design skills. Does that transfer to photography per chance?
Yeah, I can organize that if you want.
I do, and I could, be a model in there. I mean, not a model, but like have my bike in there. Because I ride through there all the time. I'm thrilled. Thank you so much, Greg. Great work.
Yeah, well, this has been, full TMP effort. Jim and Garrett submitted the request in the FHWA months ago. And so it took some time, but we finally got the approval for it, and it was installed last week. And I believe the signage will be finishing up, I think by the end of the week, Amy said. So once that gets installed and So everything will be completed on that end. And then I just have one more thing to share. I know we got to move on.
Yeah, we should move on. Let me just wrap that the bit of photography up. Colin and Christine, can you take that offline and coordinate getting a picture taken of the new bike box?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. Okay, go ahead, Greg.
And one more quick thing. Audrey alluded to it when we first got on. There's also TMP also installed a half-mile bike lane in each direction on Aiken Street. So in total, that's another mile added to the city for bike lanes. So it was striped, and then signage is going up later this week. So all of Aiken Street, it's got shared lanes at the bottom of the hill where Ward Street is in both directions. And then after the curve, they were able to put 10-foot travel lanes and 5-foot bike lanes in each direction all the way up to West Rocks.
Is it possible to start promoting that or highlighting it to the public?
I mean, it's there, so people are going to see it. I mean, it's already, installed on the ground. The only thing that's missing right now is signage, and that's going to be going in sooner rather than later. So
great.
Can I delegate getting a photograph of that also to Colin and Christine?
I'll take that one.
Cool.
That's right around the corner from my house, so.
Perfect. Yeah, I would love to share incremental updates like this on our social media. And oh, you know what? I will take the item of adding that to our bike map, our bike lane map. Okay, Greg, any other updates from TMP?
Nope, that's it.
All right, let's move ahead. I think this next one should be pretty short. Colin asked about the LOT CIP LOTSIP grant that's in the works for Wall Street. Greg and I talked about this one-on-one earlier today. I'll give just a quick overview, and then if we need additional details, we can ask for them. But this is the one that Paul Sotnick gave an update on back at the March meeting. The grant was approved by the state DOT and was drafted and included in large part a kind of a reclamation of street space in front of the Peruvian restaurant that's there at 10 Wall Street. I think also a part of the discussion that we had in our meeting was about installing some bike parking there. And if you remember, there's also a bit about how it's been a lot of work and potentially subject to some delays because of the utilities that are underground there. So I think, Greg, if I recall correctly, we're still waiting on DOT for approval of that grant, but we've submitted it to them.
Correct. Yeah. So they're just waiting for the bid authorization from DOT. So once they approve the final designs, there's some language that they're working out right now, but the city can't put it out to bid yet until DOT approves it, and then they can send the money out to the city.
Gotcha. Colin, did you have other questions you wanted to ask on that?
Yeah, so a bit of context that brought this back into my mind. I channeled a bit of Audrey's hot-headedness in the past month, and I was during my commute I think it was in the morning. No, it was one morning and one evening. So it was the beginning of July, and then towards the end of July. In the morning, I witnessed a Milford Transit bus coming down East Wall Street and made the sweeping right turn onto Main, running a red light. It was a large articulated bus, so I emailed our contact Paul at the Norwalk Transit District, and he forwarded my complaint. And then about a week and a half ago, I had a similar incident where I was coming home and I made the right off of Commerce onto Wall Street and came up to the light at Main going in the other direction, and a bus, another articulated bus, this was a CT Transit bus, pulled to the light, which was red, or turned red as he was decelerating and coming to a stop, and then proceeded to make a left turn against a red light. Through that intersection, and he was a little over the stop bar, but far enough behind it where he should have remained stationary for the duration of the light cycle. So again, I fired off another email and basically got the same dog and pony show that, yeah, we forwarded your complaint to the appropriate agencies, and I recalled that Judd and I have been working on this area for a while with the crosswalk at Knight Street that we've been discussing, and
5 years.
5 years.
No, really, it started as a request from
Yep.
a restaurant owner for a crosswalk to get across the street because the parking was across the street. That restaurant has since closed. I just want to say, it'll be a nice project, but it evolved from a single crosswalk
Yep.
to a major infrastructure project. And it was 5 years ago that we
Yeah.
first brought it up.
So I wanted to, I guess, revisit the conversation on this, and now that Garrett and Jim are around, they're a little bit more, have a bit more of an appetite for temporary measures that can then become permanent. So I guess I just wanted Greg and Mike to dust off the plans, and Jim and Garrett to get some eyes on them and see if there was anything we could do in the near term with some flexible bollards or reclaiming traffic space for pedestrians, and do anything that might decelerate the buses and just make things a little bit safer.
Right. So Colin, as far as the Lotsit project for Wall Street, that's already, gone out for final design, and nothing has changed from when Paul, I talked with Paul this morning. Nothing has changed in the design on Wall Street, and it's already in the approval process. And I don't think at this time that project can be changed because DOT is already in their final approval process, and the money, I think, is sitting there waiting to be, the project's waiting to be funded at this point. Now, as far as a larger level for Wall Street area, TMP is going to be submitting an RFP for the Wall Street area corridor for a design consultant to prove an overall view of Wall Street, and not just Wall Street in general, but the surrounding streets as well. So we, TMP put together an RFP and sang that out, and on a larger scale project to redo the entire corridor area. So we're, looking for a consultant to put together some design plans and oversee a whole process, as there's a good amount of money that we received for design consultant. So we're going to see what comes up with this in this design.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Audrey.
How does one become a traffic consultant?
A traffic consultant? Well,
Yeah. How do you become a traffic consultant? Just curious.
work as a traffic engineer.
Okay.
Because a lot of them are traffic engineers and planners, and years of experience, and there's a lot of design consultants around there. But it's a very intensive job. It's not just putting together plans. That's the last part of it.
I just wonder what the background is, but engineering pretty much?
A lot of it, yeah, but it takes a team. So a lot of these design consultants have dozens of members who are collecting on-road data. There's a lot of planning data surrounding property that needs to be looked at, and surveying. So it doesn't just, let's just draw on a piece of paper what we can do. It's a lot of intensive months of data collection, and a lot of collaboration and public input as well into it. But it's a lot of, it's a lengthy process.
Yeah, that's good.
Mike can
Okay.
certainly speak to that as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Judd?
Yeah, Greg, in terms of the Lotsit project, it sounds like it's going to go out to bid sometime in the next 1 to 3 months, maybe?
Yeah, according to Paul, that's about the timetable. He's just waiting from to get the approval from DOT.
And then go to construction spring of next year?
That was his plan, because there is utility work right now that's
Right.
still going on. That got delayed a little bit. So even if the project was approved now, they still couldn't go and start it yet.
Okay,
They have to wait.
that's good. I mean, yeah, that's what he told me 6 months ago. So
Yeah.
I'm glad it
No,
hasn't changed.
That's realistic.
Yep. Okay, good.
Okay, so I guess that was one of the things that I was a little concerned about, is it was just languishing in some interim approval process and it wasn't really going forward. So
No, it's going forward. It's just, when you get grant money like that and it's a substantial amount and, they want to make sure everything is being adhered to with it. There's a lot of back and forth, even minor adjustments have to be made. So that's just part of it.
okay.
Well, Greg, thanks for the extra context there, and Colin for bringing it up. Any outstanding issues there? Can we move on? Excellent. So we have 2 agenda items left. Well, I guess 3. Jim Carter has just joined. Welcome, Jim. We wanted to talk with him about the grand opening for the NRVT in Norwalk. And Sam wanted to give an update on the pump at Calf Pasture Beach. And then Judd had a couple of bike-related things as well. Sam, the Dero item is pretty short, right?
Oh yeah, really short.
Yeah, do you want to do that now?
Update, a couple of questions for Greg, and then on to the next one. So we did effectively get the pump replaced. So Dero shipped us a replacement. It landed on Thursday, according to tracking. It should have come, I believe, to Mike's office or department. But the next steps would be replacing the existing pump and sending Dero their old pump back. They've prepaid a shipping label. I wanted to ask Greg and Mike if just to confirm that it has arrived. Tracking shows as much, but I haven't heard from anyone else that it's there in the flesh, untampered with.
I'd have to check and see if it's actually, if it has or not, because more than likely it probably went to the TMP garage.
Okay.
It didn't come to City Hall, so we'll have to check with the TMP crew at the garage and see if it showed up there.
Okay, great.
When did it arrive, by the way?
It arrived on Thursday.
Thursday. Okay. Well, I'll check with them and see.
Great. And
I
then,
have a question, excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead, Barb.
Has anybody gone to see where the pump is now? And was it approved by us that it would not get in the way of the repair station?
yeah, I was just using it actually on Saturday.
So there's plenty of room to still,
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be close enough to the repair station so you can use the pump while the bike is in the repair station, but it's
okay.
correctly as far as I think. Why did you hear otherwise, Barbara?
Just a comment somebody made that they thought that it would be in the way of the bike, but you know that way better than me.
I'll
So they
take a
couldn't both
look
be
at
used
it.
at the same time.
So if someone has their bike there, then yeah, it might be hard to access the pump as a second user, but I would think that that's worth the convenience of being able to use the pump while you're using the stand.
I mean,
Okay.
the pump and the stand are kind of designed to be. a
Yeah,
unit.
they are a unit, so they interlock together.
Good, thanks.
Yep.
So-
So yeah, I'll just catch up with Greg probably tomorrow, assuming he's able to check, and then
Yeah, I mean, I'll reach out tomorrow and see, see what they say.
perfect. Thanks, Greg. That is otherwise, yep, only update there.
Cool, thanks, Sam. Judd, are your items, are they pretty self-contained, or are they more open-ended?
I think they're self-contained.
All right, do you want to take 3 or 4 minutes?
Yep. Greg, I don't know if you can help with this or not. I live in South Norwalk. I ride Water Street a lot over the bridge. And often on Sundays, my wife and I ride our tandem over to Calf Pasture and back for a short ride. There's a lot of truck traffic on Water Street, so a lot of gravel and dirt falls off. And I use the Click and Request app about every 12 weeks to ask that it be swept, because the bike lane, I would say, almost becomes unrideable. In the past, they've responded. Recently, they just closed my request, and I think they're tired of me. And then on the bridge, particularly because the bridge lifts up, whatever stone, sand is on the part that lifts up gets dumped in a pile.
Right.
Base. And I don't know if it's possible in the summertime to get Water Street and the bridge swept every week. Because the bridge in particularly is pretty heavily traveled.
Right, right.
So again, I don't know if that's something you can help with.
I will reach out and see what can be done in that case. I mean, I can't guarantee anything, but I will see what can be done.
Okay. The other is on that ride, I noticed Fifth Street now has Sharrows on it, which is
Correct.
great.
Yep.
So you come over and but when I get to Ludlow Circle,
Mhm.
and that I don't know if is it Pine Hill that comes down and connects to Ludlow and Beach Road.
Yep.
But in terms of bike infrastructure, it's a little bit of a no man's land. And I don't know if you can get Sharrows that would connect Fifth over to Beach Road. And maybe even around the circle at Ludlow, we had a pretty scary interaction with a car 2 weeks ago there. I think, we kind of thought we were in the circle and had the right of way. The car thought they had the right of way. And if there were Sharrows there, it might help. So you might want to look at that.
Okay, yeah, I'll bring it up with TMP staff and see what we'll have to take a look at it and see see what the best case would be.
Okay.
Greg, I've often thought that a yield on Gregory going east, going into the traffic circle would be really useful because cars do not care about cyclists in that. That is, I mean, I go to the beach several times a week, and coming into the traffic circle westbound is, and then going around and into Fifth is
Yeah.
almost it's a stupid thing to do on a bike, and it shouldn't be.
Yes, that's what happened to us. I mean,
Yeah.
we had to slam on our brakes and then at the last minute the car did, but we were, anyway. So Sam, you know what I'm talking about.
It's not the best traffic circle, and it is offset to where it should be. And we have looked at the possibility of moving and centering the roundabout with the adjacent streets and trying to get a better flow of traffic than where it is now. But for short term, obviously that's more of a longer term, but for short term, we can see if we can explore some better options.
Yeah, maybe Sharrows might help.
Maybe, yeah, we'll see what we can do.
Okay. And then my last thing, Greg, my favorite street in South Norwalk.
Hanford Place?
Yeah. Any Sharrows there yet? I haven't looked in a week or two, but.
Not that I know of. I will have to discuss with Amy and TMP and see.
Tell Amy I'll buy her lunch once they're in there.
Okay, I'll see if it's on her list because she oversees all that. So
Yep.
I will check with her and get an update on that.
Okay, I'm all set. Thanks, Greg.
You got it.
Yep.
So one follow-up comment there, Greg. I think I know that we don't have any time in this meeting to like hash this out, but I think I speak for the whole commission when I say that the roundabout there at Gregory is pretty key to the bike strategy of the city. Not only does that, that's obviously part of any route that people take to the beach, which I think is a hot bike destination in the city, but it's the NRVT goes through there.
Right.
And right now I would say that, I hesitate to recommend to anybody that they bike to the beach because of how sketchy the route is, and the route is mostly great, but that roundabout is just sketchy. So I would love to see you said that there's longer term work that's there, and I would love to see that materialize, but in the short term, whatever we can do in the short term would also be appreciated.
Yep. No, we will take a look at it. Jim, do you have a question, Jim?
Jim is present.
Tanner, before we move to Jim Carter, could I have a couple things myself?
Well,
yeah, quick. Or Jim, go ahead. Go ahead, Jim.
Sure, go ahead. My comment was about the Rotary, but but sure, go ahead.
No, you go, Jim, because I'm all for the Rotary discussion myself, because I was through it the other day. Go ahead, Jim, on the Rotary.
I think Jim is having internet problems.
Well, this is really Greg and Mike Yosak's space, but with the NRVT and along with Nancy, we've walked the Rotary a lot, and there is a major redo afoot of that. And so we were trying to make it safer to get the NRVT through, but in the face that there's a rather major rethink of that as a Rotary and how it works and where the appropriate yields are and that sort of thing, we kind of stepped aside. And so just to match it with signage, and I think until the greater plans put in place, we just kind of have to grin and bear it, was my sense, because whatever gets put in place in an interim way, hopefully is going to get redone by a greater concept. But that's, as I say, that's really Mike and Greg's space rather than mine. But work is afoot.
That's good to hear. Thanks, Jim. Christine, did you want to say something additional?
Yeah, so just quickly, I got an email from the New Haven Transportation Group that there's kind of what we do, but in New Haven, and they have money, from the federal rescue plan. They got $90 million, and they're having public forums. But I thought it was curious. It came through with this transportation organization, and I was just curious if Norwalk is getting any money from the federal rescue plan, and because it goes towards capital investments and other things it can be used for. So I was just curious about that. I don't know if anybody knows the answer. And the other thing is for Tanner, I'll email you. It's about having our guest speaker, Ken, from the
oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay. But that was my question on the federal rescue plan. And then can't wait to hear about the Norwalk River Valley Trail.
Yeah. Greg, do you mind answering that quick so that we have time for Jim?
Yeah, I will have to get and find that out and see if there's money there. That off the top of my head, and can't answer that question for you, but I will find out and let you know.
Cool, thanks, Greg. All right, so Jim, I think the floor is all yours. If I can introduce quick.
Thank you. All right, I will be
go ahead.
I'll be as brief as I can. October 16th is the scheduled grand opening for, one could say it's of the missing link, but really we're trying to make it something bigger and better than that. We're thinking of it as the grand opening for the NRVT in Norwalk, since so many people really don't know about the NRVT and it's been rather piecemeal. So we're wanting to tie everything together. So coincident with the opening of the missing link, we're going to reopen the entire trail. So new signage will be going out on the trail from Calf Pasture Beach to Broad Street. And it's really been a literal foot by foot assessment of the trail and where do we need to direct newbies and people that aren't familiar with it. And because the signage that we have is really inadequate. We understand that, and we've been saving up to do this in the right way at the right time. So the intent of the grand opening is really to introduce the NRVT to all the different communities and constituencies of Norwalk. And by that, I really mean those that think of the trail as a recreational resource, those that think of it as an alternative transportation resource, a connection to nature, to everybody, because it will indeed mean different things to different people, and we want them all to know that. So our hope in the grand opening is that there will be events that will register that with those folks. So we will start with the conventional ribbon cutting in the morning, specific times to be determined, but tentatively say 10 o'clock. And then our hope is to have events throughout the day, every hour or every hour and a half at different locations along the trail. So some of those would be at what we're calling the Riverside Trailhead, which is where the parking lot will be. That is I think everybody knows kind of where that is. It's by Casatelli's, and it will be our parking lot, meaning the NRVT parking lot. And it's roughly 20 spaces in that parking lot. That's where the ribbon cutting would be, most likely. But we may well have events along the trail there. And some of those could even be at the same time in different places. So like at Oyster Shell Park. So, so for instance, there could be a nature walk along the Riverside portion. There could be a history walk through the cemetery at Pine Island and that sort of thing. So while our focus is to make the trail really, make everyone aware of the trail, really from Calf Pasture Beach all the way to Broad Street, but with the real focus being from the aquarium to Broad Street, which is the off-road portions of the trail. At last month's meeting, the notion, and I can't remember exactly who introduced us to the concept, but the notion of a slow roll that the Bike Walk Commission might want to coordinate along the trail. I personally had not heard of the slow roll programs that are going on, but they're rather significant in a number of cities. And going online, you can see a lot about them. And it makes, I mean, I think it's very compatible with what we're trying to accomplish, which is, at least as they're practiced in other places, it is a biking ride of all ages and diverse folks, and they kind of meander their destinations. In many ways, in other towns, some of them are big one-time events where hundreds, I don't know, maybe even thousands of bikes come together, and they'll close streets and they'll wander from suburban to downtown Detroit or something, for instance. Obviously, if this is on the trail and first time, it will be smaller, but maybe it might be the springboard for an ongoing event beyond the NRVT. But I think it's a great way, would be a great way to introduce a number of differing constituencies to the trail and to follow the concept. There are some logistic realities that would have to be dealt with, like if there's, you know, where would you start? How does it end? How do you come back? Again, the trail is only 10 feet wide. And if you have 100 bikes show up, that requires some coordination. Obviously, the trail crosses some busy streets. That's probably going to require police presence to monitor traffic and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of things to be determined. I think it could work. I think it's very consistent with what our objectives would be. From a personnel standpoint, we obviously, volunteer standpoint, we obviously need the commission to play a lead role in working with us to make it work. But we'd like to join hands with you to make that happen. So if you have questions broader than slow roll about the grand opening of the trail itself, I'm happy to maybe field those offline or whatever in the interest of time. But in terms of next steps, I guess I'd like to collect your thoughts about how we might actually make this come together.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, so I intentionally put this item at the end so that we could just brainstorm until we are out of time. I'd love to hear what other people's thoughts are, and then have everybody hear them so that we can get the creative juices flowing. Go ahead, Chris.
Jim, I don't want to be like a pessimist, but is there a rain date or is it rain or shine event?
The assumption is a rain or shine event.
Yeah, that's what I think. I'll speak for me, being involved and volunteering, and I'm committing right now to that. And the historical piece or whatever, and the different constituencies of our city, great idea.
So I'll throw in just a hypothetical. I think it would be awesome if we could show off the newest part of the trail, but I think that the most obvious start and end locations would be where we have large parking lots. I imagine a lot of people who are going to participate would be more comfortable arriving in a car. And so this parking lot that you mentioned, Jim, that's at Casatelli's, that's right at the south end of the new section, right?
It's really right in the middle of the new section.
Oh, is it?
I mean, my sense, as on a handful of things, I mean, we've got a long list of events. The realities are we have a limited number of volunteers, and what we do, we want to do well rather than struggle with making stuff come together. So my sense is that we need to select a few events that we can make happen and that we can do it well and that are very targeted to what we're trying to accomplish. But the reason for saying that is some of the things which logistically we don't think we can get together in the time frame would be like the NRVT 5K, for instance. In that case, that requires some transportation. You got to get people, let's say if you started at Broad Street, up to Broad Street, essentially like on buses or something, and then it finishes at, let's say, Oyster Shell Park. And you have to manage crossing the street, all those sort of things. I bring that up, as I say, not that we're considering it, but it has some of the same logistical things, kind of issues. So my sense is that you probably would start again, and the slow road doesn't have to tie in with the ribbon cutting, say at Riverside, but more logically, you probably would start at Oyster Shell Park, and the ride would go up to either the turnaround being at Riverside, or perhaps you could go all the way to Broad Street, one more intersection at New Canaan Avenue you have to manage, but that there would be a ride up and a ride back. And since everybody's going slow, you could manage northbound traffic starting to come in contact with southbound traffic and that sort of thing. But that's just my initial thinking. But again, as Tanner says, there needs to be a brainstorming to figure out, well, where is the right place and how would we manage that, and how many intersections do we want to cross, and all those kind of issues. So we need to flesh out the issues and determine the solutions. And that's more than 2 minutes on Zoom here.
Yeah, Jim and Tanner in the group, I don't mind contacting the Detroit Slow Roll. I'm about to go out to Detroit because that's where I'm from. But I got the impression, I think I'm the one who brought the slow roll forward, that these were organic, and then they would just sort of put out an APB to the city, and it was meant to acquaint people with different areas of the city, to do sort of a tour. And they would really get hundreds of people, all kinds of people, young, old, black, white, rich, poor, all kinds of crazy bikes and everything. So I think they were fairly informal, but I'd like to ask them, did they have to coordinate with the police? What did they have to do ahead of time? Did they do anything ahead of time? I'm happy to reach out to them and see how they formulated these. Maybe
Well,
that would be
my sense of what's happening in Detroit now, it's reached enough of a profile where literally hundreds of people show up and they literally do close streets. So therefore, obviously, there is some sort of coordination that that goes on for that. And, we're something short of that, which in my view makes this viable. And our capabilities therefore may match the attendance that we have. But it just seemed, as you pointed out, that it introduces all kinds of different folks to the trail in different ways, and in a way that everybody can take at their own pace. And so I think it's at least the springboard for a very interesting concept if we can figure out how to adapt it to the realities we have to deal with.
Yeah, Judd and Colin both had comments. Colin, do you want to go first?
Yeah, if Judd doesn't want to go first.
Go ahead, Colin.
Okay. Jim, I was just going to say, maybe toning the slow roll down a notch and like thinking of something not quite as event-like. Maybe you could have like a passport and you could encourage people to pick up stamps from different locations on the trail during the day. And there could be an entry for, like a raffle or something at the end of the day. And the more stamps, the better, but it's not like a directional event where you're moving a mass of people from one place to another. You just say, the trail is open, it's the grand opening, you can park wherever you want and enjoy the trail. We're encouraging people to get out and enjoy it, whether it's walking or biking, and you can pick up a passport from a volunteer and you get it stamped at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 locations, and there will be a person with some refreshments and a stamp at those locations. And if you show up, you show up. If you don't, you don't. We're there for you to enjoy the trail and tell you about it. And if you get stamps, then you can enter to win a power bar or a water bottle or whatever.
Oh, that's great. I like that. That sounds great.
Yeah, that I was thinking along the same lines, and maybe I missed it, but this slow roll includes pedestrians, or is it? It sounds oriented towards bikes, but
what I saw actually was bikes.
Yeah, I know you have a limited amount of volunteers. Is anyone thinking on opening day to get a bunch of walkers out there?
I don't see why not. I mean, we should. I mean, again, that speaks to the fact that not everybody's a biker.
Right.
And, so indeed, I think the pedestrian side's important.
We also have the
Go ahead,
skateboarders and the rollerbladers. But I just have a quick question. It's an ADA trail, right? Like you can bring a wheelchair through there?
That is correct. All of this section of the trail is fully ADA compliant.
Yeah, so the part where there's a part that goes around the water from the Maritime, the water up to Oyster Shell, but there's gravel there. I thought like that would be tricky to get a wheelchair over there because they must have put it there to absorb the wetness, the moisture.
No, in Oyster Shell, we're on firm surface, hard surface, mostly asphalt or those pavers there along the river all the way. The only place in this, it's 3 miles from the aquarium to Broad Street. In those 3 miles, the only spot that is not hard surface is through Pine Island Cemetery. And that is stone dust, but that is ADA compliant there. And that's the only steep part of this section,
Okay.
for that matter. But it's climb rate, and there's actually the trail's got to be reworked a little bit, but it actually has two sort of plateaus, terraces that break up the grade and permit it to be ADA compliant.
Christine, perhaps you're thinking of the other paths within Oyster Shell, which I think are not paved.
Yeah,
not part
yeah,
of the
there was
NRVT.
one other one. Yeah. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah,
Perfect, great.
Inside Oyster Shell is technically not the NRVT.
So, do we have other comments on the festivities for Jim?
I
Go
just
ahead,
have a
Audrey.
comment. It's not necessarily about the festivities, but encouraging people to use the NRVT to accomplish errands, get to the library, get around town, and not just for leisure activity, but actually to utilize the NRVT to accomplish some tasks of daily life. I just wondered how much that was being encouraged.
That's happening organically on Riverside Avenue.
Oh, that's
My
good.
neighbors and I, we're walking to the library now because it's safe to do so, where we never did that before,
On the path.
on the path.
Yeah, my
But-
guess is that it's gonna start to tick up when they open it and publicize it. I mean, even just myself personally knowing that it's open, you know, it's not too far from where I drop my daughter off in the morning, and I could easily alter my route to take that into South Norwalk. And it, you know, once it's open, I might try it because it's probably a little bit better of a ride. So I think that's going to happen now that there's a connection.
Yeah, to piggyback on Colin and Jim, maybe have a raffle, like something at the movie theater. Because I used it too to get from this step where the YMCA is to go to the movies, like cross through that night and have dinner in Sono. So maybe get a restaurant gift card or a movie thing, so people are thinking, you know, to use it.
Ooh, another idea on this topic. If if at some place, either, I guess we could distribute this physically on paper or digitally, but if we could distribute a map of the NRVT, I'm sure that that would be part of the activity, but if the map could include lots of different points of interest, things that people, you know, places people might want to actually go to as part of a normal day or part of a vacation day, so that people understand how central the NRVT is transportation wise. And also maybe include the bike racks that we have installed. We have a pretty good map, like we keep pretty good track of the bike racks around the city. And if people understood that, like, yeah, I could go here and I could lock up my bike while I run an errand, that might help people to start thinking of it more in terms of practicality.
Yeah, we have a lot of those things, like in the signage that we're putting on the trail now is literally to keep you on the trail. But the next step of signage is really about wayfinding that says, you know, Overton's ice cream's this way and so-and-so's hamburgers are that way, and the bike rack is this, you know, all that sort of stuff. We actually got more ideas than we have doers at the moment. And I guess in regard, in that regard, I guess I'm hoping I can get someone to raise their hand tonight and say, hey, I'll be the slow walk captain, if you will, and or slow roll. Maybe it's slow roll and walk, or walk and roll. And it may not be a slow roll. It may be the passport idea, but I need a helper / leader to assist here.
Well, I'm certainly interested. I would move to get a couple people in addition to me, probably me and Audrey, since Audrey's been interested in this for a while, and maybe one other person if they're interested, to flesh out some of these ideas a little more, weigh the pros and cons, and then come, you know, maybe include you, Jim, if you'd like to be, or come to you with your proposal, and then head that up from there. What do you think of that?
So, no, I think that sounds great. If you could, if maybe between you could kind of pull, you know, a proposition together that you've sort of already given it a little bit of a stress test in terms of, here's how we think we could solve this, and here's how, you know, it has these kind of issues, and here's how we're going to solve them, and here's why we think it could work. So, you know, the other reality, I mean, we do have what is it? It's 10 weeks. So that's a surprisingly short time to pull together all of the details that have to be done to make it work.
Sure. What if we got back to you in 1 to 2 weeks with a somewhat concrete proposal of how we would be engaged, either with a slow roll or a passport idea or a combination of the two or something else?
That sounds great. That would be a tremendous help.
Audrey, how do you feel about volunteering
I
for
should
this?
also,
Go ahead, Jim.
yeah, I should let you know, I'm part of the other reason why I'm in this small state of panic is that our executive director, Beth Merrill, has resigned to become the head of the Ridgefield Playhouse. So one of our lead horses here has dropped out. Charlie Tani, which most of you know is going to pitch in, but our bandwidth is being challenged.
Wow, that's too bad.
No, the timing is. I mean, they obviously can pay her a ton more money than we can, and if this had happened in November, I'd be disappointed, but not panicked. But hey, it is what it is.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, it sounds like then it would be helpful if we could take on as much of the proactivity for this and drive this as much as we can. Is that right?
It'd be great if you could take an event and kind of make it yours.
Yeah.
We can blend it with others. We're working with Keep America Beautiful and 2 or 3 other groups. And so that's kind of the concept is the NRVT will kind of be the host of a variety of activities coming from different groups that have their own agendas and their own benefits that will come out of it is kind of how we're hoping to pull all this off. So yes, if you can be the point and be the leader, and anytime you want to call me, I'm happy to brainstorm with you and do whatever else I can to help make it better.
Okay, cool. So in the interest of time, if you're a commissioner or a pseudo commissioner and you'd like to be involved with this over the next 1 to 2 weeks, just raise your hand and I will contact you. Audrey, Chris.
What's the date on that?
Thank you.
October 16th.
This Saturday.
Saturday, yes.
Okay, I will reach out to
The
Audrey and
leaves are
Chris.
just starting to change. The weather is beautiful. It's a great day. I can
Oh
see
yeah,
now.
it's an awesome pick there. Okay, I'll contact Audrey and Chris.
Yes. Oh, sorry, Tanner.
Yeah, Judd, we're over time. Do you want to bring up something
No,
else?
no, I'll call Jim later.
I have one item, Tanner. Sorry, I didn't. I saw you had the extra section at the beginning, and I didn't want to step on everybody's toes that were already. It sounded like Judd had a couple items, but this is kind of. I wanted to bring to the commission's attention something that happened this morning, and then I got an email at work that I felt like was contrary to what was going on, and just there's a little bit of a disconnect between what the city's trying to promote, it seems, and what's actually going on. So I rode through Wall Street this morning again, and the city was removing the barricades that are out front of the bar there that's been in place right on the corner of Smith Street, I think. So there's an outdoor dining set up, and that follows on the heels of the barricades being removed for the outdoor dining on Washington Street, which as things continue and get a little bit more uncertain, outdoor dining is a positive, and many places have extended that for a continued period of time. And then my office manager forwarded me an email from Sabrina Church, who's the director of business development, from this past Friday, saying, "Happy weekend. She's pleased to inform you that the mayor announced that starting July 31st, outdoor dining service can continue to 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and 12 a.m. Friday through Sunday. That means you should, the restaurants shouldn't seat people. But so they're expanding the dining options for people and for restaurants to take advantage of, but they're removing all of the dining that's available for people to enjoy the evening when there's nice weather. So can I share my screen really quick, Tanner?
Yeah, so, well, can I ask first, is this something that we could take at next month's agenda? Is it time sensitive enough?
It's just more, I
Seems
mean,
that I would say it is.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
You know, if you guys can see this in a second, this is just this is a different location, but I was in Greenport, New York, which is out on Eastern Long Island this past weekend. If you guys can see the streetscape, this is a state road that leads right through the middle of their downtown. They've reduced it to one way and we're very much set up for pedestrian experience and outdoor dining to serve the many restaurants and you know, cafes and retailers that are along their main drag there. And I guess, you know, I'm just seeing stuff like this and I'm like, this is a state road. This is Eastern Long Island where it's the high season. There's a ton of traffic normally coming through here. They've effectively bottlenecked the state road and, you know, we can't even keep our outdoor dining open. So it's just me as a resident and a commissioner being very discouraged in the mixed messaging that the city's putting out that, you know, we're trying to encourage people to go out and, you know, help recover the economy and help these restaurants that are, you know, struggling to attract patronage to some extent. And, you know, many places have learned a lot from this experience in terms of providing better facilities for pedestrians and an outdoor space for residents to enjoy. And it's been a little bit of a reset and just seeing the city out, you know, tearing out these places kind of ahead of schedule is very discouraging to me, you know, and it's like, I just feel like we're keep sticking sharp sticks in our eye when our surrounding, you know, municipalities seem to be leaving their outdoor dining in place. So that's really it. I just wanted to make everybody aware that, you know, these things are getting taken out and at the same time, we're being told that we can stay out later and enjoy the seating that's not there. So,
Colin,
yeah,
I'm not 100% sure, and Greg may or may not know something about this, but I believe TMP, or at least the city, is working on a policy for, you know, wood structured parklets to replace the Jersey barriers, I believe.
Okay.
So,
that's positive.
Greg, I don't know if I know that's not in your arena probably, Greg, but maybe you've heard something about that.
I've heard things going back and forth, but as far as timeline and, you know, something definitive, I can't answer that question here. I'd have to find that and get a little more details on what's going on with that.
And Carly, if you're there, I know you're from redevelopment. We've never met. I don't know if you know anything about it.
Yeah, I've heard the same as Greg. I've heard things going back and forth about it, but no concrete information.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
How can we get some concrete information?
Yeah, Greg, can you comment on that?
Yeah, I can, you know, I can reach out to the, you know, the parties, you know, responsible for that, and I will see what information I can gather and what I can share.
Cool. It seems like, given the time sensitivity of this, Greg, if you could report that back either to me or to the entire commission just via email, I think that would be fine and probably be better than waiting until the next meeting.
Okay. Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can get that to you. You know, as soon as I find out, I'll let you know, Tanner.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay. Just as we disband, I want to remind everybody that tomorrow is the National Night Out in front of the police station. Let's see. Barb, are you heading up? Is Barb still with us? Looks like she's no longer with us.
Tanner, Barbara
Yep.
is, and I'll be there too to help set up. And
Yeah,
yep.
Do you need additional hands setting up, or do you just need people to show up when the event starts?
I can't speak for Barb. I think we're good for the setup. She and I can handle it, I'm sure, but I have another table I'm doing at 6:30, so I'm gonna be leaving at 6:30. So if I don't know if you can fill in after.
I plan to be there for the duration of the event. It's 5 to 8, is that right?
Yeah. Huh?
Okay. Oh, I think we lost you there. But yes,
Yes.
I plan to be there from 5 to 8. I hope that everybody that can make it would also come from 5 to 8 to staff our booth. I would love to see you in person, first of all, because it's been a while. And second of all, just to interact with the members of the community and to get people's firsthand takes on the city would be very useful. So I hope to see as many of you there as I can tomorrow. All right, with that, Judd, was that you?
No, I said I'll try and get down there.
Awesome. Look forward to it. Okay, anybody want to move to end the meeting?
Motion to close?
Thanks, Colin. Second? Judd, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Good night.